Welcome to the Acumatica ERP Construction Edition overview demonstration. Today we'll be focusing most of our time in the construction and project management workspaces, reviewing dashboards, reports, tasks, and transactions, as well as the integration with the Acumatica mobile application. We'll begin today by reviewing some of the dashboards that are included in the Construction Edition. Here you'll see a project overview dashboard. This is designed to be an executive or operational dashboard, kind of a high-level look at various projects that we have going on within the organization. You can see here this dashboard represents some of the different types of widgets we can include on a dashboard, such as a simple chart or inquiry, a graphical representation using pie graphs or bar graphs. You'll also see that we have the ability to integrate websites such as this job site camera where we can review the different projects and job sites in real time. And we also have different overview information about our projects such as gross profit by project, shown in both a grid as well as a graphical format. We can also see a review of revised contracts, change order logs, even ball and court, so different RFIs that we've set in the system. I'm going to flip over to our Construction Project Manager dashboard, and this is a dashboard that's going to be designed specifically for actions that construction project managers might need to take. You can see here we have several different KPIs, just giving them a quick look at some of their project metrics. We also have an integrated website again, which is our weather application. This is completely interactive, so you can actually come in and search by different location for that weather app. And then we can see some different actions that the project manager might have, such as items to approve, a change order log, project issues that they might need to address. We can also drill down further into these dashboard widgets, such as our over budget projects. This is going to take us into an inquiry that provides us with additional detail about which projects are over budget and exactly how much over budget they are. From here, you can see we could actually drill right into the project and be able to review that information in more detail. Next, we'll go ahead and go into our favorites where we'll start reviewing a specific project. This is our project inquiry, which is going to give us a listing of all of the projects that we have within our system. We can filter this by which projects are active, which projects are assigned to us, potentially as a project manager, or by customer ID. I'm going to go ahead and drill into my hotel project, and we'll start reviewing the various areas of Acumatica's construction projects. The first thing you'll notice up here in the header is we have a customer assigned to the project, and we can also select a project template. The template allows us to drive default information for a lot of the things that you'll see here on the summary tab, as well as set default tasks for a particular type of budget. As well as set tasks for a particular type of project. You'll also see here on the right-hand side, we can get a very quick look at the actual income, actual expenses, our margin, and margin percent. You'll also notice here in my project, I have a side panel, which allows us to drill into some additional information about the project, such as the requests for information that are associated with that project. This is just a way to get a quick look at some additional detail without having to open additional screens. Down in our Summary tab, you'll see a lot of the general information about the project. Within the project properties, you can see where we can track our revenue budget level and cost budget level. The options here are to track by task, task and cost code, task and item, or a combination of all three. For this particular project, you can see that we've set our revenue budget level to be task and our cost budget level to be task and cost code. We set a start and end date. This will allow us to see whether the project is in fact active, and then we can set our project manager. You'll see here my project manager also acts as my time activity approver, so as our various employees who are posting time against the job send those timesheets in, this will be the individual that will be required to approve them. Another couple of things to note here in our just general properties are the ability to say whether or not this project can qualify for change order workflow, whether we can add new items on the fly to the project, and whether or not the project is associated as a certified job and requires prevailing wage, that is, if we are using Acumatica's integrated payroll. Next, we'll look at our billing and allocation settings. Some of the main things that we like to point out here is our billing rules. We can set up a billing rule that applies to the project. This particular project is using a progress billing, but we can also support things such as time and materials, fixed price, internal projects where no billing is required, or even a progress billing. We'll see in a moment where we can actually assign a specific billing rule to various tasks. So if we had a particular task on the project that was going to be a time and materials, then we could assign that at the task level. You'll also notice here I can check whether or not I want to create a pro forma invoice upon billing. We're going to go ahead and leave that checked, and we'll review that workflow in a little bit. Finally, here on the summary tab, you'll see our retainage mode. We can set the retainage mode as well as the retainage percent. And then as we go through billing, we'll be able to see the contract total, the completed percent, and the total retained amount. Next, on our tasks tab, we'll review all of our various tasks. We can set tasks at the project level specific to this project, or we can add common tasks that we've already set up within the system. This is an area where our templates can come into play, where we can assign a task to a template and they'll automatically be populated here on our task tab. Each task can be either a cost and a revenue or one or the other type. And then each task can have a billing rule. This will default from our summary tab but can be overridden at the task level. You'll also notice that we have a status for each task. All of my tasks in this particular project have already been activated, but I can simply come in here and change the status when necessary. Maybe a task is in planning and we don't want any transactions posted against it yet. Or maybe the task has been completed and it's time to move forward onto the next task. Over on our revenue budget, we'll be able to set by task the budgeted amount. You'll notice here that we have our Load Records from File button available on this tab. So if you are tracking estimates or quotes in an Excel type format, then you can simply utilize this functionality to upload that data right into the revenue budget in Acumatica. You'll also see here on this particular screen where we can track original budgeted amount as well as revised budgeted amounts as change orders come into play. You'll see here we have a couple of potential change orders right in our screen, and as those change orders are approved, they'll actually be calculated right into our revised budget amount. Furthermore, as we scroll over a little bit further, we'll be able to see the actual amount that's been billed, the total amount retained, and any pending invoices that we have out there right now. Next, we'll review our cost budget. So as we saw on the summary tab, our cost budget is going to be tracked by task and cost code. So you'll see the various tasks as well as the cost codes associated with them. You'll also notice here on my cost budget, my account group, which is really going to drive what general ledger accounts I can post to from this particular task cost code combination. That really keeps all of our project transactions honest and our accounting exactly as it should be. Like the revenue budget, you'll see our cost budget has our original budgeted quantity and amount, as well as any potential change orders, and then the revised budgeted amount. As we go through some of our transactions within Acumatica today, we'll review back on this cost budget tab to be able to see how the changes that we make outside of the project itself impact this cost budget. Our Balances tab is going to give us a quick look at our income and expense by project, and it's going to group it by the account groups. Commitments are going to show us all of our purchase orders and subcontracts that are associated with this particular project, including their statuses. On our Invoices tab, you'll see all of our pro forma invoices, as well as any related accounts receivable invoices that have gone out to the customer, and it's also the place where we can come in and release any retainage for invoices. We can track our change orders as well as our change requests right here on the project itself and see all of the detail associated with them and have the ability to drill right down into those documents. Any associated activities that have originated from Acumatica will be tracked on our Activities tab. This might include time activities, any emails that have been sent back and forth to the customer for communication, even accounts receivable invoices that have been emailed to the client. You'll also notice that we can create additional tasks and emails right here from our project, and we can create additional types of activities. One thing to note on these activities is we have a few out-of-the-box native Acumatica activities, but these are also completely configurable to the organization. So if there's something that we want to create specific to your company that might be a type of activity, like a site visit, then we can certainly create that activity as well and track those. Finally, I'm going to drill into my Compliance tab here. There's many other tabs that the project allows us to track, such as contacts and approvals and such. But this Compliance tab will allow us to keep track of the various compliance requirements by vendor. You'll notice here that I have an exclamation point next to this particular compliance. It expired on 6/30/2024. We can utilize this type of information to drive business notifications and events so that we can get that certificate updated from our vendor. You'll also notice here that each of my attachments are highlighted in gold, which means there is an attachment to this particular compliance. I can drill right into that attachment and view what's been provided by the vendor. This sits right in our Acumatica database. Now that we have a general overview of the project itself, it's time to go through some workflow processes. The first thing we'll do is talk a little bit about our project management options and transactions. Our project management is an additional module that's available if you own the Acumatica Construction Edition. It allows us to create requests for information, project issues, track drawing logs, have employees submit daily field reports, track photo logs, and track submittals. We're going to start this workflow by going into our request for information. So I'm going to create a new request for information. It turns out, as I've been working on this particular project, the customer has requested to add air conditioning to this particular unit. So I'm going to set up a simple RFI for that. We select our business account. In this case, it's going to be the customer. And then I'll select a contact to associate with this request for information. Now, our RFIs allow us to categorize by class ID. So in this case, I'm going to say we would like to create some additional information, but this could be a substitution or a deficiency, all depending on the type of RFI I'm submitting. So we're going to say we need a new quote for an air conditioner, and then we can set an answer due date. We can also put a priority on this, so I have a low, medium, or high, and then any documentation links that I might want to attach here. Now I'm just going to give it a quick detail, and I'll just copy from my summary and paste into my question section, but of course this could be much more in depth. There's quite a lot of bit of space here, And you can even make it visually appealing by applying bold text, colors, bullets, etc. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And next, we can come in and start answering the question. So let's come in and say, the answer is, quote will be provided, details attached. So when I'm providing the answer, I'm going to go ahead and say there is going to be a potential schedule impact to this addition. And we'll say it's going to be 3 days. We'll say it's also going to have a cost impact, which I've budgeted to be about $8,000. Now I'll go ahead and save my RFI. Before I actually open it up, I do want to just do a quick print on this and show you the example of what the RFI can look like. This form is using our Acumatica report writer, as many of the forms in the system are, which means they can be completely modified to the customer's specification. This logo can automatically be added to be the company's logo, and we can move data around, add additional details as needed. Back on my RFI, I'll note that I do have a couple of additional tabs here that I can roll through. We have some attributes, which are more user-defined fields that we can add to each screen. Any related activities, so if I were to email this RFI, then it would automatically populate here. Any relations associated with the RFI, meaning additional contacts I might want to send this to. So if the customer might have an architect or designer they're working with, I can add that relation. And then also any drawings that we can link through our integrated drawing logs. I'm going to go ahead and say open this RFI, which now allows me to convert this to an outgoing RFI, so I can request information from an outside source, or I can actually convert this to a change request. I'm going to go ahead and convert this to a change request because I know that the customer wants to proceed with this and create a change order for the project. Here I have my estimation, so I'll come in and add my project task as well as my cost code. And we'll say this is going to be materials, and I'm going to add my cost code. Now in this case, I know that this is an inventory ID that I track in my system, but this is something that you don't have to fill out. And since I am already tracking the price or cost, I will see that populate automatically. Then I will go ahead and create our revenue task, and it's already populated the revenue account group. We're going to go ahead and mark this up, and then we'll save the change request. Now again, we have some additional information that we can track here, such as a detailed description. You'll see that from the RFI, some of the information already populated over onto our change request. We also can send a change request through approval. However, in this case, I'm just going to simply remove hold, and the system is going to allow us from here to create a change order. The change order itself is what's going to track back to the project budget. However, you will be able to see the change request as well as the RFI associated with the project as well. So here on my change order, I can come in and track the contact time change, which we thought was going to be about 3 days. You'll also see that the revenue budget change has already reflected here in the header, as well as my cost budget and gross margin amount and percent. You can see that it's associated with that specific change request. We could have multiple change requests associated with one change order. And then I have some details on both my revenue and cost budget of what this is going to look like as it flows through to the project. At this point, we could also associate specific commitments such as purchase orders or subcontracts, and track additional detailed description, user-defined fields. And now as you see, I'm going to remove hold from this change order. You'll notice that it is going to trigger an approval workflow. That approval has gone out to a specific project manager. I luckily am a part of that work group, so I'll go ahead and say approve, and you'll be able to track that approval. We can print this stamp on documents, and everyone will know exactly who to contact about this specific approval on this change order. The final step here will be to release the change order, which is going to actually update the project budget both on the revenue and cost ends. Let's go back into our project to take a look at that impact. So I'm going to use my recently viewed records, and I've actually made that specific project, my beach hotel, a favorite record, so I can easily select it at any time. So now back on the project, I can come in and view my revenue budget, and I'm just going to drill into that specific project task. And we'll be able to see that original budgeted amount has actually been increased and a revised budgeted amount exists. Likewise, on my cost budget, I can see that the original budgeted amount has additionally increased to my revised budgeted amount, including that specific change order. Once again, I can drill into my change order tab, and I'll be able to see that new quote for air conditioner change order has been reflected, and it is in a closed status on the project. Now that that change order has been approved and the cost and revenue budgets have been updated, let's go ahead and create some commitments for that specific item. We'll first start by creating a purchase order for the air conditioning unit. This is going to take us out to our purchase order screen, and we can create a normal purchase order within Acumatica and tag it to several different project and project tasks. However, in this case, since I'm purchasing a large unit for a specific customer project, I'm going to select the project dropship type. This will indicate to the system that the item is going to be shipped directly to the project site, and all I have to do is really account for that shipment within the system. So first we'll come in and select a vendor, and next it's going to ask me to select that project. Now you'll see here I have a couple of options. I can come in and add my items manually. What I can also do is say add project items, and that's going to pull up a list of my project tasks and cost codes. The other thing it would do, had I selected specific items on my project, is it would list inventory IDs. In this case, I'm going to filter into my 06 project task, knowing that these are building materials and appliances. I'll add that line and close. And now you can see the system has kind of done half the work for me. I will come in and select my air conditioner. And again, the system automatically recognizes the prices that I have set up in Acumatica, so it's identifying that $2,000 unit cost. Next, I will save the order and need to tell it I'm ordering one. And then when we remove the hold from the order, you'll notice again the ability to walk through the next level of the approval where I can enter a purchase order receipt. Before I do that, I'm going to drill back into the project so that you'll be able to see the visibility of this purchase order and the impact that it's making on my cost budget. As I click on my cost budget and I drill into my 06 project task, we'll highlight that specific cost code. And as we scroll over, we can see that there's actually going to be a committed open amount. That's identifying that purchase order amount that has been committed but has yet to actually be processed through the project budget into an actual. I'll also be able to come over to my commitments tab, and we'll filter this by date so I can see the most recent order, and we'll see that project dropship purchase order, the amount, as well as the status being open. Next, we'll go ahead and walk through the process of receiving the item. So I'm going to enter my purchase order receipt. which is going to tell the system that the item has been received at the customer site. At this point, let's say I already have the bill associated with it. So I'll go ahead and type that in, and then I'll release the document. That's not only going to create the bill and release it, but it's going to post that cost back to my project. I can confirm that that accounts payable document has in fact been created and released by looking at my billing tab, where I can see the status is open, meaning it is ready to be paid and that cost has been posted back to the project itself. So to review that, we'll drill back into our project. Once again, check out our project task 06, where I can confirm that my committed open amount is now 0 and the actual amount will reflect that bill. I can confirm that by clicking on View Transactions, where it's going to open up any transactions that have been associated with this project. And here I can see my AP bill for my central air conditioning unit has been posted. Now you'll also notice that these check marks say billable. That indicates that this is going to bill through to the customer at my next progress billing. Now I do want to point out another type of commitment, and that is going to be the creation of the subcontract. So even though I've purchased the air conditioner, I still need to have it installed. So we're going to come back to our Commitments tab and click on Create Subcontract. Now you're going to see that this is going to interact very similarly to our purchase order. However, it's a little bit different and has some different workflows. So let's pick our plumbing vendor. You'll notice here there's a yellow exclamation point, and that's indicating that this particular vendor has expired compliance. Again, we can utilize this type of information to drive notifications throughout the system in order to let the correct person know that they need to get that updated compliance from the vendor. Next, you can see this is going to interact very similar to the purchase order. I can come in and add rows, or I can simply click Add Project Items. I'm going to do a lookup on my project, and then it's going to allow me to drill into a specific project task and cost code. So I'm going to pick my plumbing fixtures and equipment, which is associated with my subcontractors, and I'll add the lines and close. Next, I'm going to select a unit of measure. I know that this is going to be an hour. And we'll say this is going to be 30 hours at $100 per hour, about $3,000. You will see that on the subcontract, this is automatically calculating the retainage based upon the settings that I have for this vendor and project. We also can associate, as mentioned, this with a particular change order. In this case, we had not, and we can associate this with specific compliance for a vendor. To keep things simple, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the hold on this subcontract, and then you'll see the next workflow for a subcontract is to enter the billing against it. When I click on Enter AP Bill, this will take me right into my accounts payable bills and adjustments, and it's going to pull in that data from the subcontract itself. Of course, if there's any differentiation here, then I can account for that. We can also account for taxes by assigning a specific tax code to this vendor or this specific bill. I'm also going to attach a copy of the bill in this case. So we'll just drag and drop my air conditioning bill right onto my Acumatica bills and adjustments screen. It is asking for a reference number, which is a required field if I choose for it to be. So we'll drag and drop that bill, and we'll see that then attach as a file right here in Acumatica. I can access it by clicking on the files and then drilling into that PDF right within the system. In addition, we can use Acumatica's accounts payable document recognition to drag and drop that PDF and have it automatically recognize some of that detail for the bill. In order to post this back to the project, I'll simply remove the hold and release it. And then again, we'll be able to see these costs actually reflected in the project itself. So let's go back into our project, because now that we've had some interaction with vendors and had some costs associated with the project, it's time to go ahead and bill the actual customer. So to do so, we'll go ahead and click on Run Project Billing. This is going to bring up my pro forma invoice. So from here, you'll be able to see the progress billing total is $5,000 for that air conditioning unit. You'll also be able to see that detail in the progress billing itself. This was part of our building materials. Now, if this was a time and material task, I'd be able to see additional time and materials associated on the time and material tab. Now that I've had a chance to review the pro forma invoice, we can come in and we can print our AIA report or schedule of values where necessary. You'll see that a lot of the detail is already populated for me, and then we can send this off to contractors, etc. Again, just like the other reports in Acumatica, using the Acumatica Report Designer, we can modify this to fit the customer's requirements. I'll go ahead and remove the hold here, and you'll see that the pro forma invoice has gone into an approval status. So a project manager or related person is going to need to come in and make an approval prior to us creating the actual customer invoice. That gives them the chance to review any documents, make any modifications to the bill itself, which will then flow through to the customer's invoice. Here I'll go ahead and say approve, and finally we'll say release. And the release function will actually build out the customer invoice, which we'll be able to review in our accounts receivable module. In addition to sending this to our accounts receivable, we can actually review this back on our project. So I'll go ahead and drill back into my beach hotel project and click on my invoices. Here on this tab, again, I will see my invoice that I just created today, as well as the related AR document, which is sitting in a balance status. So this invoice is the one that's going to be customer facing. We'll be able to email this invoice, print it. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick print. And from here, I'm going to send it. This allows me to customize the email that's going out to the customer, but of course any of these processes can be a mass process where we email all of our customers their invoice. Now that that's been sent, I'm going to come back over to the invoice, and I just like to point out the related activity that is associated with that invoice, which will flow through to the project as well, showing us the email that was sent to the customer, giving us all clear visibility into the interactions that we've had with the end user. Now that we've had a chance to interact with our projects in several different ways, we're going to move over to our mobile application, where we'll be able to review some of the available tasks that we can do through the Acumatica mobile app. So I have pulled up my Acumatica mobile application onto the screen. The Acumatica mobile app is free with the Acumatica ERP software, and it is compatible with iOS as well as Android type devices. The first thing you're going to notice on the app is that we have the ability to select the different KPIs and dashboard widgets that we want to see by user on our app. So I have some of those same KPIs we saw earlier on our Construction Project Manager dashboard right here in my mobile application. You'll also see that I have my recently visited items, so it's easy to drill into those items that I've been working in. And then down below, I'll see all the various workspaces available to me. Each user's mobile application will show them the workspaces that they have security for, just as it would in the web application. I'm going to start today in my project management section. And when I drill into the project management section workspace, you can see the different tasks available to me: the daily field reports, drawing logs, submittals, those RFIs we worked on earlier, project issues. But first I'm going to submit a new photo log. I'll do so by clicking on the plus sign to the right of the photo log. And then it's going to allow me to start entering data. So first I know that I need to enter the status of the photo log and the project. So I'm going to do a quick lookup and pick my beach hotel. Next, I'll pick my project task, and I'm just going to pick one that I've been working in. And then I'll click on my files, where it's going to ask me to add a file. Here I can either take a photo live, or I can insert a photo that I took earlier. I'm going to come in and select a couple of different photos. We'll say add. And this is going to attach those photos to the photo log. We'll save it. And now, if I come back into my Acumatica web application, we'll come over to our photo logs from the project management menu, where you can see I'll have the ability to select a specific project to review any photos associated with that project. I also can see a list of all of my photos from this screen. So now I'll come over to my project management menu in my web application, and I'm going to drill into my photo logs, where I'll be able to select a specific project and see all of the photo logs associated with that project. So now I'm going to come over to my project management, and we'll select the photo logs, where we can then select a specific project and see all of the photos that are associated with that particular project. We have the ability to show those photos right here in a main photo preview, or I can drill in to the photo log, where I'll be able to see that there's multiple photos associated with it, and those are those photos that I just attached via my mobile device. Back on my mobile device, I'm going to do a project issue. So here I can track various issues that we might be finding as we visit the site. So here I'm going to say that we found hole in drywall after plumbing complete. Now I can associate it again with my project, which is going to be my hotel. And then I can select the project issue type. So we can set up these various types. This could be an accident or something to do with compliance. Maybe there was an injury or a safety issue. In this case, I'm going to say this was an issue caused by our subcontractor. Now we can associate it with a project task, although that's not necessary. And then we can say class ID. I'm just going to pick classification or additional information. Here we can select a due date. So we want to make sure that this is resolved within the next 3 days. And we can give it a priority, low, medium, high. We can assign it to a specific group within our system that we've set up. And then we can also say whether this is going to have a schedule and or cost impact. So if I say this is going to have a schedule impact, we're going to say the fix is going to be 4 days. Now from here, we can see later whether this is converted to an RFI or any sort of change request. We can also click on our description to give the ability to type in additional descriptions. These also will utilize the microphone integration with your phone, so you can simply just transcript the description. I'm going to go ahead and say save. And again, as I come back over into my web application, I'll be able to see those project issues. They'll also show up on the dashboards of those users who they might be assigned to. The final piece that I'm going to show in the mobile app today as I go back to my homepage is going to be the ability to capture an expense and tag it back to a project. So in this case, I'm going to go into my time and expenses and my expense receipts, where I can say capture expense receipt. That's using our integrated OCR technology, where we can take an image of the receipt and it will automatically upload some of that data into the receipt itself. But here I'm going to say create new. This is going to take me to my expense receipt entry where I'll give it a description. Let's say I had to go to Home Depot for supplies to complete my part of the project today. Next, we need to select an expense item. This is going to tell the system where does this need to be posted to from a general ledger. Next, I need to select an expense item. This expense item is going to allow us to select the type of item that it is, which will tell the system where it needs to post. This is important because we don't always want our users out in the field trying to determine what general ledger account to use. We've set up one for building supplies, so I'm going to select that. Next, we're going to capture the amount of the receipt, and we can associate it with a project. Now, of course, this module works without projects as well, but here I want to specifically tell the system that we need to bill the customer for this information. My project task is going to be selected, and then I need to select my cost code, which I'll do a quick search and pick that task. Now I'm going to indicate that this is a billable item, which will then show us the customer. Finally, my details allow me to say how I paid for this. So in this case, I paid with a corporate card. It's a company expense, of course, that's going to be passed on to the customer. And then we can select the card that is associated with the specific employee. This was our Home Depot credit card, so I'm just going to leave that checked. All of this account information will default based upon our selections. Now, the final step here will be to take an image of the receipt. So I'm going to press the camera button up here in that left-hand corner and allow it to capture the receipt. Now, Acumatica already crops the receipt for me, so I'm just going to accept those recommendations. And I can see that receipt has been saved as a file. And so I'll say save. Now, as the employee, I'm going to say we need to go ahead and claim this receipt. So I'm going to go into the receipt screen and say claim all, and it will claim any open receipts that have yet to be claimed. We could add additional receipts at this point, or I'll just say submit. What that's going to do is actually send this out for approval by whoever has been identified as the member of the work group who needs to approve this document. That could be the project manager or a manager to the specific employee entering the receipt. So from here, let's go back to our time and expenses, and you'll notice here I have a section for approvals. So this is a really handy way to do approvals very quickly within the mobile app. I'm going to go up to my approvals and say, let's look at my work group approvals. And I can see here that expense claim that is associated with this project I'm working on. Now from here, we can see the details and we'll be able to drill into each of those receipts. And from here, I can even look at that receipt on my phone that's stored in Acumatica. Everything looks good to me. This employee submitted the receipt exactly correctly, so I'll approve it. And then I'll release it. And that step is actually releasing the document all the way back to the project so that it's going to be available for us to view as well as be a part of our next project billing. So let's go ahead and take a look at that by drilling back into our project on the web application. And we're going to go into the cost budget, select our task, and we'll say view transactions, where I can see my Home Depot for supplies receipt is associated with the project. Again, I can view the attachment right here from my web application from the project. So when you're in Acumatica, you'll find as a project manager, you can really do all of the work you need to do right here from our project screen. The final step today that we'll be taking a look at is going to be some reporting. Acumatica comes with a number of different types of reports for our construction projects. A couple that we'll be looking at today are going to be a project budget versus actual and a project WIP. So I'm going to start with our project budget versus actual. And what you'll find here is that this is a report that's been written using the Acumatica Financial Report Writer tool, which is also integrated with our projects. I'm going to select a date that goes back a little bit further, and then we'll go ahead and do a quick lookup to find our hotel project. And then we'll run the report. So from here, you're going to see our budget, WIP, expenses, and actuals here. This is, again, a financial statement that we've written specifically for these projects by project task level. From here, we can actually drill into specific expenses. So I'll click through, and it's going to take us out to the project history details, which shows us for that specific task, here's all the different type of expenses we had. We had labor, other types of expenses, subcontractors, etc. And that will give us detail on original budgeted amount, revised budgeted amount, etc. This is basically a report look at what we can see when we're looking at a project. Next, let's take a look at a project WIP report. For this particular report, I'm going to set the entire company, and then we'll go ahead and set our from period back a bit. You'll notice here I have the option to include potential change order amounts in the actual revised amount. If I leave that unchecked, it's just going to get in its own column. So I'll run the report, and then we'll be able to see our project WIP for all of our various projects that are active during this period of time. I can see my hotel. We can see our original budgeted change order amounts, the revised. We can then see our estimated costs associated with those same categories, any commitments that have been created. And then we scroll over and we'll see our projected costs and gross profit, as well as our actuals. Now, you can see here this is a summary look at our WIP report, but if I want to go ahead and view that in more detail, I can click on my hotel project, and that's going to take me into my project WIP detail report, where I'll be able to see all of the detail by project task for this specific project. It's going to subtotal each of the tasks here, but we'll still see the same contract amount, estimated costs, related commitments, with the projections for our costs and profits, and then finally our actuals. So that's going to conclude our Construction Edition overview demonstration today. We look forward to showing you more of the system as we drill in and review each of the functionalities available to us in Acumatica's construction and project management. Thank you.